There's this common, saying or stigma on the internet, if you will. And this stigma is saying that, men feel very lonely nowadays, being single and all. Incels, if you will. Now, what is the definition of an incel? Now, an incel is a common theme, or I guess you could say, a verb, a noun that's been going on the internet, which essentially describes a man who is sexless and is unable to attract a woman in his life. And from what I've seen in research, this draws many negative effects towards the men, feeling a sense of loneliness and depression and a feel of isolation and emptiness. Now, I understand that as a man, it's naturally biologically edged into us to want to eventually find a spouse, have sex with her for the sake of reproduction, and I guess you could add some form of pleasure into that too. But it's better if you do it through love rather than lust, and that's a whole different topic for another video. But I just also want to speak on my own personal experience, because in terms of the definition of incel, yes, single, I do match that criteria. But in terms of not attracting women, no, I do attract women, right? And that's not to say, because I can attract women, I don't feel lonely. Because there was a time in my life, and I'd say even just 5 years ago, where I wasn't really attracting women. I wasn't really working out like that. I didn't really care about my looks like that. Not to say I'm the most good-looking guy on the planet. I'm really not. But I'm doing okay for myself right now as a 19-year-old black man living in England, okay? I don't feel lonely in the slightest. I don't. I'm really happy right now. I'm happy with the way my life is going. And the natural laws of the earth tell me, naturally when you get older, you're just naturally going to attract a woman. Improve yourself with the quality of your woman becomes even higher. So this is why when I walk outside and I see a really beautiful woman on the planet, I feel like planet is a bit too... there's a word for it, I just don't have to say. Let me rephrase that. When you see this is why when I walk outside, I see a really beautiful woman. Yeah, maybe for a few seconds I'm like, oh, she's really nice. And this is how our brain works. And I'm sure it's like this for women too, but when you see someone who's really attractive, there is a part of your brain that's thinking, oh, she would be nice to fuck. She'd be nice to wife. At least this is how my brain works, okay? I'm a very honest, raw guy, I just tell you how it is. And I mean what I say too. So when I'm outside, I see an attractive woman, I always think, oh, she'd be nice to wife up. That's just how my brain works. It's just the evolutionary, biological, whatever thing that's enchanted into me. And I'm sure you can relate to yourself. And it's absolutely normal to have these sexual fantasies. It's in you, it just shows you're human, right? But the issue that's bothering me now is the stigma that men are lonely purely based on not having a woman. Here's my take on the matter. Yes, in terms of the whole incel criteria, in terms of being single, yes, I do match it, but lonely, I do not at all. My take is that the people who do feel lonely for not having a woman, they place their entire value and self-worth purely based on the woman having an external force, which isn't them. I don't know about you, but for me personally, I don't want to date and I don't want to marry a woman who places her self-worth and her self-value based on another man. I want her to acknowledge herself fully, entirely as a person. Let me tell you something. I believe the best form of relationships are two people, man and woman, who love themselves full. They know their self-worth and they respect themselves to the fullest. And then those two people, they come together and they build an even greater kingdom in a metaphorical sense. So they've already built a solid foundation during their single years, just been doing anything and everything to propel their lives forward, whether that may be, niche down to the male aspects of life and, the female aspects of life. Then they meet together and they both already have a good solid foundation and they're able to grow from that. That's the best case scenario, and this is really good for the children as well and the family setting in general, because the children will grow into a good environment. They won't experience any form of trauma and it showing during their later years, because the early years of a child's life is very important. From the ages of 0 to 7, that's where your whole outlook, your view on the world is molded. through that experience. It's a very key thing. Very key thing. And the way I'm living my life right now, I'm just doing what I know is best for me. And also to my benefit to, which will help me in the future. And to which I enjoy. And I don't do it solely for the sake of attracting another woman. And ironically, that would attract the other woman. Right? And I'm sure for my future wife, I don't know where she is right now. I'm sure she's doing the same thing. And that's what I would prefer. Not purely for the sake of doing said habits to please your partner. No, there's nothing wrong with pleasing your partner, but placing your entire self-worth on the opinion of another flawed man, I believe it's wrong. Right? Now we should please God, by all means, because He's the only thing that's perfect in all eternity. But simply basing your self-worth on someone else, it's not very wise, because we make mistakes too. And I don't feel alone in the slightest. I'm single, and I've seen a lot of live streams on the internet, right? More so YouTube shorts. So I would watch a lot of FitX Fearless in the past. I'd watch his live streams, and a lot of his audience are lost. They would go into his mic, his live calls. And I made a video about this about 5 to 6 months ago. I captioned it, "I'm 21 years old and a virgin," and I was essentially mocking the people who were feeling a sense of dread, and it annoyed me personally. Maybe my response to that matter wasn't the best, and perhaps so. I was just simply annoyed from, the fact of men placing their entire self-worth and confidence based on the amount of women they're able to attract. It's very vain, right? And the reason why these men tend to do this, and the reason why it causes them to end up feeling lonely, is because they don't truly love themselves. They're not giving themselves the permission to love themselves. And this goes deep, man. All these problems you have when you're adult, most of them, it stems from the root cause of home. So this may have been a thing, you may have experienced some trauma from your family, or just overall conditioning from the media, whatever that may be. When you're young, teenage years, and especially childhood, you're at a very impressionable age where everything can really play on your mind. And so it's very, important that you pay attention to the values that you choose to adopt, because they will play on you and it will reflect. You needing to feel the sense of loneliness, it shouldn't be like that. You should be able to accept yourself as you are now, because you've entered the world by yourself. And before, let's dive deeper. Prior to all of the conditioning that did happen to you, whether that be the media or anything else, when you were simply born into this world, you didn't feel alone. Sure, you may need your parents, but I mean, you didn't feel alone in the sense of, you didn't base your whole entire self-worth on the validation of another woman. Absolutely not. So we can draw to the conclusion that you needing to feel this need of codependency to ease the so-called emptiness in your heart, that's not normal. You feel the emptiness and you need to have a relationship with God. That's the only way to feel it. I'm telling you, it's the only way. If you don't have God in your life, I don't care how many beautiful women you have, how many materialistic pleasures you have. If you have no God at the center of your life, you will suffer. I'm telling you, you can't do it without Him. And that's okay. You need Him. You need God. God is the only way to fill the hole in your heart. You need to have a relationship with God, and He will teach you self-love. Same way He taught me. Because guys, I'm really happy in my life, man. I told you earlier, a few minutes in this video, how the best forms of relationships are a man who's full and, doing what's needed and what he enjoys, to which will propel him in a greater area in life and is in line with God's morals and His morals, right? And I mentioned that specifically because a lot of people, they do something which falls in alignment to their morals, and as we know, not everyone is as good-hearted as I am. So the reason why I mentioned God's morals is because whatever God thinks, it's right. It's absolute. Right? So, like I told you, the best relationships come when a man's doing something he truly enjoys and believes it's purposeful to him, and God loves it too. And the same vice versa with the woman. Then they come together. So they already don't really need each other, but it would be better if they are together because of the foundation they've already built. Then they build a kingdom, an empire. Make of that what you will, whether it be literal or not. It's making a good impact on the world, and it's inspiring people in the positive light, to which God approves of too, of people pursuing and being closer and pursuing their God-given purpose even better. You know, when I was in high school, I was very lost. I was in pain. You know, I wasn't really attracted to much women like that. So I would follow the wrong people on the internet, you know. And I don't have a dad too, so you can't really ask questions like that. Oh, why? So when you don't have a dad, you tend to pursue other forms of father figures via, you know, male influences of the internet. And for the most part, this message they had, when I look back now, I could tell from those people that I'd watched too, they also have deeply rooted trauma. And they would use, you know, the social validation and the quality and quantity of women they're able to attract as a means to fill the void in their heart, which isn't how things should be. Right? If you weren't the cause of this woman's void, you're not the one who's able to fix it. You can't expect to be the one to fix it. Right? It's the same way if I was addicted to drugs, right? No woman's going to be able to fix it. And it starts from within. It starts with me. She could convince you as much as she wants, and she may even have a genuine good heart to it. She can try and attempt to lift you up as much as she wants, and as sweet as it is, it's your responsibility in terms of how you respond. It's your free will. The world is in first-person narrative. You decide, right? It's your decision at the end of the day. You live how you want to live. So you can decide to be and feel alone for the rest of your life because you're under this stigma on the internet of, you know, you identify as an incel, right? And you look for a female's approval to feel good about yourself, to which you already had before in terms of you didn't need an external approval to feel good about yourself. It comes from within. Or you can love yourself already, accept yourself for who you are, deem yourself as attractive, even though no one, from your experience so far, no other woman finds you attractive. Deem yourself as attractive. When you deem yourself as attractive, you'll start taking care of yourself more. You'll start doing the habits to which are beneficial to yourself, right? And is making your quality of life better and God approves of also. And then naturally, what's that going to do? Oh, you attract more people who are like-minded. You're no longer an incel. You may still be sexless, but there's still this stigma of the internet that being sexless is a wrong thing. Guys, I'm 19 years old, I'm a virgin. So what? Man's rejection is God's protection. And that's in a broad sense. If you want to niche it down to just men in general, because the media will probably be tied to something along the lines of, just incels, a topic like that. A woman's rejection is man's protection. Because God is storing something, He's cooking up. He's cooking, man, let Him cook in peace. He's saving the woman that is actually for you. And that may take 10 to 15 years. But us humans, we're too impatient. Hence why a lot of people, you lack the patience and are probably broken inside. They look to have sex with as many women as possible to try give themselves a self-worth. But it's only creating a deeper void inside of their heart. You have soul ties with all of these other women. And now it's going to be harder for you to connect with one actual woman. This is one of all the more reasons why I'm also against this whole notion. And it's very common online. You know, a lot of famous people and influencers on the internet, they will encourage young men to have sex with and sleep with a lot of women. They're spiritually dead. They don't have no relationship with God, man. Because anyone who, you know, and I'm not even saying you have to be necessarily religious. I'm just saying you have to follow God, right? You would know the dangers of having sex with multiple women. The soul ties it can bring. The damage, the psychological, physical damage. This is why porn industries and actors are so dangerous. They're in terms of spirituality, they're the lowest of the low. They've crushed their spirit. They've crushed their innocence. And chances are they probably don't follow God if they're living by those morals and standards. So you choose whether you want to feel lonely or not. It starts with you, right? Before you want to attract a woman to which you're doing the right thing, before I want to attract a woman, and before I get to attract a woman, I need to love myself the way I am now. And as I build myself up, I'll just love myself more. Because there's more proof. A lot of people say people's worth, specifically a man's worth, comes from accomplishments. And in a societal sense, yes. in terms of what society deems attractive in a man, yes. But as you're born now, you need to love yourself already for just being you, for being a child of God, for being born. That's rare. We need to love ourselves now, and later on, as we continue to power up the merit, it's all the more reason to love ourselves more. A lot of people believe, and I'm gonna end off by saying this, and a lot of people condition their children to thinking your self-worth comes from your accomplishments. Well, it builds onto your self-worth, but it's not your entire self-worth. Because there will be times in your life where you struggle in whatever you're doing, whether that be career, and you're not doing the best. Are you automatically gonna reduce your self-worth? No. You need to know who you are already, understand your morals as a person, you being here, and everything else will fall into place. You won't feel lonely because you already have that self-love which is given initially in the beginning. Who are you? You need to realize that now. You need to do the shadow work. Get to know yourself, especially in the formative years. But most of us are adults now, so we have to have that sit down with ourselves, that uncomfortable talk, establish your morals. Then you have to fall into this mindset of the incel category, which isn't healthy at all. That's all I have to say.